Welcome to the In Shape Fitness Show. I'm Coach Kim, and today's podcast is about the strength of your right leg relative to the strength of your left leg. You may not feel like one leg is stronger than the other. It certainly doesn't appear probably to you that one leg might be stronger than the other. But when it's marathon season and New York City marathon training just kicked off in New York, where I coach and hundreds of novice, normally bucket list runners every year, I end up getting to talk to people about a concept that I call pivoting in terms of functional fitness, and how significant the difference, the very small differences in strength that you have between your right leg and your left leg translate to really significant pain and suffering over a training period. Now, how does this, if you're not training for a marathon, how might this affect you? Maybe not so much. However, if you have some goal, some interest in achieving a plateau, a balanced, healthy lifestyle at a plateau that's slightly different than what you currently experience, if you want to maybe be able to go on a long hike with your family, or take a long bike ride maybe across Europe, or maybe, swim more, or maybe run shorter races. Maybe it's not a marathon, but maybe it's a half marathon, because it's really great, euphoric, obviously taxing to your body, but the experience of being in those kinds of longer term physical events makes a huge difference in the way that you look at your health, the way that you process your food choices, your meal choices, and it can also build really strong bonds with people around you. So I'm going to talk about pivoting. As I said, it's how I define the exercises that you need to do that help ensure that you have strength in your left leg as well as the strength in your right leg. But I want to talk a little bit about how I discovered this issue, and amazingly, why I think people don't really pay that close of attention to it, especially when it comes to non-athletic. So maybe performance athletes get a little more of this sort of nuanced training focus, but most regular people don't even consider the issue. And I do get a chance to talk to people about this as a marathon coach in New York City. But first, so we're not going to do any exercises per se, but it is important to sit up really tall and take a couple of deep breaths. If you're listening to a podcast and maybe you are at work, or you're in the car, or maybe you're cleaning up and listening, maybe making dinner and listening to a podcast as you're doing other things in your house, whatever. But the postural systems check is something that I like to do in both the workout podcast and the just talking podcast like this one. So stand up really tall or sit up really tall and pretend that there is a string connected to the top of your head, and that you're kind of like a marionette, and you're sitting up because someone is pulling on that string, elongating your spine, not, kind of holding your breath and pulling your tummy muscles in and arching your back, but just gently lifting up tall and opening up your chest, and if you're standing, making sure that your pelvis isn't tilted. So you want to tuck in your tailbone a little bit. Typically, people that sit all day have a slight tilt in the pelvis that can become quite an issue over time, but it is something to be conscious of so that you can correct it in little increments every day, every week, every month. And then over the years, you don't end up with this condition called lordosis. And lordosis is a funny word. It is a word that means that the pelvis is tilted such that your butt sticks out, contracting the lower back muscles. That's important. If you have issues with your lower back, part of it could be because of your seated position all day. So stop sitting all day. Work while you're standing. I tell my daughter often, just here's a sidebar conversation. It's really funny. My daughter and a friend of hers were over in our apartment just this morning. They're standing up as they're eating, and I wanted to say to them, girls, sit down, eat your food, sitting at the table, but I don't want my daughter to grow up thinking that sitting is always the best, though sitting at a meal is definitely the best thing for the purposes of building bonds within your family. But if you do need to stand up to do some of your work, do it, because you don't want to sit all day. The other thing besides the lower back strain that you develop as your butt sticks out is this tightness through the front of your lower abdomen, through your hip flexors. And in both cases, what you end up, the resulting sort of internal condition is a lack of a deadening of the nerve endings that fire your butt muscles. So you want to make sure you tuck in your tailbone as you're standing up really tall, and then just watch your feet. Your toes should not turn out. Your toes should point forward. And that is an indication that you have strength throughout all of the dimensions of your lower body. So forward, to the sides, to the rear. When your toes turn out, you put more pressure, body weight pressure, on your thighs and your lower back. And it's because of the pelvis, or the femur, the ball and socket joint typically turning out. And then of course there's some weakness on the inner part of your thigh and some tightness in the outer part of your thighs. That is one of the main reasons why we end up with, we watch a lot of people with, and when I say we, I mean coaches that tend to work in this space with runners and people that really want mobility through their lives in their entirety. So standing up with your feet straight is a really important part of that. So that's the postural systems check. Then the last thing, just quickly, is to make sure that your head is on straight. And I don't mean that in a proverbial sense. I mean literally make sure that your shoulders and your ears line up so that your head isn't craning, pulling on the back of your neck. Your head weighs about 10 pounds. Go to a gym, pick up a 10-pound medicine ball, and carry it around in your hands for a little while. It will get heavy really, really fast. But that is what is sitting on top of your spindly little neck every single day, every hour of every day that you are awake. You want to make sure that your head is situated on your neck, which is, atop of your shoulders, correctly, in order to maintain your proper center of gravity, healthy posture, and then proper mobility in terms of your balance and your gait, which leads me into this issue of pivoting. So let's talk about pivoting. Now, I define it as pivoting because there's an ambulance or a fire truck in Manhattan, where I live. If you hear that, the sirens are ever present. The term pivoting is something that I use to describe basic ambulatory mobility. So as a human being, when we are born, we don't have the ability to walk on 2 feet. Unlike most animals, we take a really long time to learn how to move on our own. And that is by design. Humans are special. We all know that. We appreciate the specialty of our species for sure. The problem with our complacency about our specialty is that we make an assumption, as adults at least, particularly sedentary adults, that mobility is kind of a given, that we will know how to proceed on one leg, then the other, then the other. Think about it. Pivoting is your left leg planting down, and then you pivot off of your left foot, knee, hip, and trunk. As your center of gravity shifts, it moves forward as you push off of the left leg, and then you recenter your gravity as your right leg takes over, and then the pivoting repeats itself. It is that sort of repetitive slingshot of your center of gravity moving you forward with the pressure of the pivot of each of the legs in repetition that gets you from one place to another. It's a really basic concept, except that it's not really basic when you sort of unearth the layers of the movement itself There is a lot going on as you take each step. Now, if you are right-handed, and guess what? 90% of the population is right-handed. When you are right-handed, you typically are right-legged, meaning your right leg is generally and sort of physiologically a little bit stronger than your left leg is. And that's partly because of the way we're brought up, because of the way we don't have, completely complete balance between the two sides of our bodies in terms of the things that we do in regular life. Just taking, for example, and not that people do this a ton, but if you are a golf player or a tennis player, or maybe a baseball player, you use your right leg to stabilize the body as you proceed through an athletic motion. If you are right-handed, you often pick up and stabilize your body with your right leg first when you begin an action of mobility, like maybe taking a flight of stairs. If you reach for something in your cabinet and you're reaching through, you might reach with your left hand because your right leg is stronger, that kind of thing. So we have these little nuances in terms of mobility in regular life that foster a slight strength of the right leg as it relates to the strength of the left leg. But here's the thing, in terms of regular ambulatory existence, because of, I will say, modern consumer exercise, we end up with this general feeling that in aerobic movement, so if you're compliant with the doctor's orders and you're going to the gym a couple times a week, you're getting on a treadmill, maybe getting on an elliptical machine, maybe going to a spin class, maybe going for a run, maybe, you're going to, over time, have to compensate for the fact that the small muscles in the left leg, the little tiny smallest of the small muscles, those are the muscles that are going to get tired first. And they will get tired probably within 15, 20 minutes of movement. And maybe you get a little more out of them if you're pretty well trained. But for sure, if you are training for a longer distance run, like maybe more than an hour, either like a half marathon or more, you are for sure going to experience this issue of the left leg smaller muscles getting tired first. And that means your right leg muscles are going to support your left leg muscles in your movements. And that, over time, is a recipe for repetitive stress that occurs on the dominant side. So I talk to right-handed people all the time about this. Right-handed people frequently end up with right hip issues, right knee issues, right shin issues, right foot, ankle, and foot issues, and left lower back issues. There is a diagonal, a crisscrossing at the bottom of your trunk. If you're left-handed, I happen to be left-handed. This is why one of the reasons why it's so fascinating to me. I get to celebrate the beauty of being the left-handed kind of, weirdo throughout my childhood growing up, because so few of us are left-handed. You tend to end up with a kind of a weirdness feeling, never quite fitting in with the regular crowd because I have to have a special pair of scissors in elementary school. I have to have a special glove. I can't use a regular baseball glove if there's a group of us playing softball or baseball. I have to learn a special swing for golfing. I have to have a special kind of teacher for tennis. So all of these things, I've got to sit in a special place so that my elbow doesn't elbow people at the table that left-handed people end up in. Now I'm taking revenge by mocking all of the right-handed people out there. That is not really the case. It is a true concern that I have with people that dedicate themselves to wanting to live a lifestyle of relative health and wellness, a recreational lifestyle, which is even an even higher aspiration, where you don't adhere to or have to be compliant to that doctor's recommended 3 times a week going to the gym. I hate that. That's a topic for a different podcast. But the reality, because of the way we live our lives, is that the manifestation of this slight weakness in the left leg causes repetitive stress in the right leg, and then that left lower back pain and suffering that maybe you wake up with, and maybe it goes away after you're awake and moving around a little bit. That is the case for a lot of people. However, over time, you start popping some ibuprofens or taking other measures like those patches and various other things to try and mitigate the suffering that you experience for the quality of your life. But it's no fun. You want to be able to just do what you want to do. And all of the work that me and my team do with clients at InShape Fitness, and the reason that I wrote this book, Darwin on the Treadmill, that I keep referring to, that is still not out on the market yet because I haven't quite figured out how to get it published, is really important just in terms of the freedom from that compliance with medical recommendations for consumer-based exercise, and the freedom to the liberty of a healthy lifestyle without medical interventions and drugs and ointments and other consumer crap you got to buy, and enjoyment and ability to just do what you want to do, aside from sitting all day watching TV and or maybe playing video games. Those things I don't think you should do all the time. But being outside, moving around, enjoying the park, enjoying what little of nature we haven't killed off as human beings, really, it's time to get to a place to sort of advance ourselves in terms of health and wellness to the freedom from those mandates that we've been, that have been increasing over the last couple of decades. So the bottom line in terms of what you need to do is this. I want to be really, really clear about this. You do want to keep doing the things that you're doing in terms of biking and jogging and swimming and all of the other things. If you play tennis, if you play golf, if you play some other sport, that includes, hand-eye coordination, and therefore utilizes the right side of your body for stability more, you're going to just need to think about ways that you can maintain your left leg strength in addition to enjoying the exercises that or the movements or the activities that you like. And that means a couple of really simple things. Number one, I have an exercise I do, and I do this with everyone, including my 91-year-old exercise client. And I call it a one-legged hip bridge. He renamed it the car jack. And the reason we call it the car jack is, I guess, because it sort of looks like one. When you're lying down from the side view, you lie with your back is on the ground, your knees are bent, and your hips are in the air. That's a regular hip bridge. And hip bridges are fabulous. In fact, hip bridge is something that I do every single day. And if you have the opportunity to roll out of bed, this is what I do with the AM Muscle Maintenance podcasts. Roll out of bed and proceed to a living room spot on your floor, anywhere in your bedroom, wherever it is, in your PJs. Do this. So any quick 10 to 15 minute routine of 5 to 10 exercises, and you can decouple that whole issue with having to pick up and go to the gym a couple times a week. Because if you do it every day, you've got every day for 15 minutes, 7 days a week, right? That's an hour and 3/4 of time dedicated to your physical wellness. Now, I know if you're listening to this, you do other things too, which means you can completely nix that whole gym business. You don't need to lift weights. I mean, if you want to be a bodybuilder, or you are preparing for your wedding and need those sculpted shoulders, I get that. But for most people, 99% of the population, weights are not needed. You have what you need. You just need to do it every single day. So that, back to the card jack for a second, the hip bridge is where you bend your knees and then you lift one leg up in the air and hold the hip bridge and or do some dips with one leg suspended in the air. Now, it will not seem all that difficult when the left leg is suspended in the air and you're in a hip bridge or car jack with just the right leg on the floor, the right foot planted on the floor. Keep those toes down, by the way. Whichever foot is on the floor, make sure the foot is flat, the toes are down. But when your left foot is on the floor, if you have a little bit of this, what I call lame left leg syndrome, it will be very difficult for you to manipulate the body with your right leg suspended in the air. But this is a really, really important exercise. It's also just a really good way for you to self-assess your right leg strength relative to your left leg strength. Sometimes I have people just stand on the right leg, stand on the left leg in terms of their balance. That's good, but in terms of strength of your leg, lie down on the floor and do some single leg hip bridges with the right leg. Do 10 of them, and then do 10 with the left leg down, and tell me what you feel. Write me and tell me what you feel, or post here in the comments section, or go to Twitter and find us on social media, whatever, In Shape Fitness, as you know. Let us know, because I love learning about this, how people discover that this issue exists for them. It's so incredibly important. Just the other day, I was running with this 7 foot tall, really athletic fellow who was training for the marathon, and not even his first. It's his 4th or 5th full marathon. Now, the last one was many years ago, so he's coming back to a training program after having like a decade or so off of long distance running. But he told me, as I'm explaining this issue to him, I'm saying to him, are you right-handed? Yes. Do you have right foot issues, right knee issues, right hip issues, right tightness? Yes, 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 yes. Left lower side of your left lower back issues. Oh my God, yes. Totally not aware of what is happening with his body. And I was fascinated for someone so athletic that I could help him discover something so interesting. And he's in his, he's 40. He's, as I said, athletic, healthy, but suffering needlessly because no one has explained to him that you need to have balance on both sides of the body. And for most people, it's this lame left leg issue that causes the pain and suffering, or is a cause for pain and suffering. So that's one exercise, the car jack. I want to give you one more that is, again, these are not surprising exercises. In fact, tell me later if you knew that I was going to suggest this to you. Lunges. Yes, lunges. People don't like lunges. The people that have knee problems have a really hard time with lunges. So you have to graduate maybe several levels. Give yourself a couple of months to be able to do lunges if you've got knee issues. Please talk to your doctor. Don't just try full range lunges without getting some feedback from a medical professional that you can have FaceTime with. You can contact me if you have questions. I'd be happy to help. Again, you can contact us through our website, through social media, whatever. But lunges, because you're forced, when you do the equal number of lunges with the moving leg on the right side versus the left side, you're going to start to feel the differences between the strength of your right leg and the strength of your left leg. Invariably, depending on whether they're forward lunges, side lunges, reverse lunges, and they're all fabulous. Curtsy lunges, combo lunges. I love lunges. I have strong knees, but I love lunges because they force the legs to do different jobs. And when your left leg has to be the support structure for the movement, you're going to force it to better keep up maybe with that strong right leg that you have. All right. So I'm Coach Kim from In Shape Fitness. I'm going to call it a day with that note. Please, again, let me know if you have any questions about the right side versus the left side, how the manifestations might end up working through your own, your own personal challenges. And I'll be back next week with another new episode. Have a great weekend.